In 1979, the music world was a battlefield. Disco was dying, punk was snarling, and a new wave of electronic music was creeping in. Out of this chaos, a song emerged that was so strange, so robotic, and so undeniably catchy that nobody knew what to do with it.
Music, pop, pop, pop music. Get down. Pop, pop, pop music. Pop, pop, pop music. Radio, video. Movie with a suitcase. You're living in a disco. Forget about the rat race. Let's do the milkshake and sell it like a hotcake. Try some, buy some, beat by four. Talk about pop music. Talk about pop music. I wanna dedicate it. Everybody made it. Infiltrate it. Activate it. New York, London, Paris, Munich. Everybody talk about pop music. Talk about pop music. Talk about pop music. Pop, pop, pop music. Pop, pop, pop music. Sing in the subway. Shuffle with the shoe shine. Mix me a Molotov. I'm on the headline. Wanna be a gunslinger, don't be a rock singer. Eeny, meeny, miny, mo, which way you wanna go? Talk about pop music. Talk about pop music. Shooby-dooby-doo-wop. Right in between it. Pop, pop, shoo-wop. Eeny, meeny, shooby-dooby-doo-wop. Right in between it. Pop, pop, shoo-wop. You know what I mean. Hit it. Now you know what to say. Talk about pop music. Talk about pop music. Pop, pop, pop music. Pop, pop, pop music. All around the world. Pop music. Wherever you are. Pop music. Dance in the street. Anything you like. Do it in your car. In the middle of the night. La 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 la. La 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 la. La 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 la. La 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 la. Dance in the supermarket. Dig it in the fast lane. Listen to the countdown. They're playing our song again. I can't get jumping jack. I want the whole get back. Moonlight music, knick-knack, paddywhack. Talk about pop music. Talk about pop music. Shooby-dooby-doo-wop. It's all around you. Pop, pop, shoo-wop. They want us around you. Shooby-dooby-doo-wop. It's all around you. Pop, pop, shoo-wop. Hit it. New York, London, Paris, Munich. Everybody talk about pop music. Talk about pop music. Talk about pop music. Pop, pop, pop music. Pop, pop, pop music. Listen. Talk about pop, pop music. Talk about pop, pop music. Talk about the fever. Pop, pop, pop music. Pop, pop, pop music. Do you read me? Loud and clear. Get it down. Pop, pop, pop music. Get it down. Oh no. Oh no. Oh, talk about pop, pop music.
The band was a complete mystery, known only as M. And then, just as quickly as they appeared, they vanished, leaving the world with one of the most baffling and iconic one-hit wonders of all time. Was it just a lucky fluke? A novelty song that got out of hand? The truth is, the man behind M wasn't a fluke. He was a seasoned artist with shocking connections to the punk rock elite, and he never wanted to be a pop star in the first place. To understand the riddle of pop music, you first need to understand the man who created it, Robin Scott. By the time 1979 rolled around, Scott was no kid with a synthesizer and a dream. He was a veteran of the music industry's fringes, a creative force who had been navigating the counterculture for over a decade. His journey began in the 60s as a folk singer, culminating in a 1969 album called Woman from the Warm Grass. It was a far cry from the robotic pop he would later create, filled with poetic acoustic tracks, but even then, Scott was moving in circles that would define an era. He was friends with a pre-famed David Bowie, and most significantly, he formed a close bond with one of the most notorious figures in music history, Malcolm McLaren, the brilliant and chaotic manager of the Sex Pistols. This friendship placed Scott right at the epicenter of the punk rock explosion. He was an anti-establishment artist to his core, viewing the slick, commercialized world of pop music not with envy but with a cynical and detached amusement. He was an insider who wanted nothing to do with the inside. The late 1970s was a moment of pure musical anarchy, the perfect storm for a song like pop music to exist. The cultural landscape was littered with the wreckage of disco. The disco sucks movement had reached its fever pitch, leaving a massive void on the dance floors and on the radio. At the same time, the raw three-chord aggression of punk had ripped up the rulebook, proving that you didn't need to be a virtuoso to make a powerful statement. And from Germany, pioneers like Kraftwerk were sending out cold, futuristic waves of electronic sound, while artists like Gary Newman were showing the world that synthesizers could be the tools of a new kind of rock star. The old guard was falling, and no one had a clue what was coming next. This chaos created a unique power vacuum. For a brief, bizarre moment, the gates of the music industry were left unguarded, and it was in this strange, unpredictable environment that Robin Scott decided to launch his clever experiment. Living in Paris in the late 70s, Robin Scott conceived of a project that would be a cynical commentary on the very industry he disdained. He named it M, inspired by the stark, simple signs for the Paris Metro. His goal was to create a song that compressed 25 years of pop history into a single, 3-minute burst of disposable genius. The lyrics were a deliberately bland travelogue of the 4 cities he saw as the epicenters of the music business: New York, London, Paris, Munich, but the song needed a unique sound. Scott brought in a team of brilliant musicians, including his then-girlfriend Brigitte Vinchon, on backing vocals and his brother Julian Scott on bass. But his secret weapon was a young keyboardist named Wally Badarou. Badarou was a synth prodigy, and his work on pop music would become a blueprint for the sound of the 80s, later leading him to work with legends like Grace Jones and Talking Heads. When Scott took the finished track to his label MCA Records, they were completely baffled. They hated it. They thought it was too weird, too robotic, too uncommercial. Refusing to release it as a proper single, they buried it on the B-side of another track. But they had made a colossal miscalculation. In the clubs of New York City, influential DJs like Robert Umipi started flipping the record over. They ignored the intended A-side and started playing pop music. The song's minimalist beat and hypnotic chant were perfect for the burgeoning new wave dance scene. It became an underground sensation. The demand grew so immense that MCA was forced to relent and officially release it as a single. From there, it was a rocket ride. The song shot to #2 in the UK and then did the unthinkable. It went all the way to #1 on the Billboard Hot 100 in America. Robin Scott, the cynical, anti-establishment artist, had accidentally created a global monster. He was suddenly an international pop star, performing on TV shows around the world, his deadpan expression a stark contrast to the bubbly hosts. He was trapped. The pop machine he had sought to satirize had now consumed him entirely. Every interview, every performance was a surreal experience, forcing him to play the part of a pop star, a role he had never wanted and fundamentally despised. The pressure from the label was immediate and immense. They needed another pop Muzik. For MCA Records, this wasn't art, it was a product. They demanded a formula, a repeat of the success that had fallen into their laps. But Robin Scott was an artist, not a factory worker. He delivered a follow-up single called Moonlight and Muzik. While it was another slice of clever synth-pop, it lacked the shocking novelty of its predecessor. The song managed to crack the top 40 in the UK, proving he wasn't a complete flash in the pan at home, but in America, it flopped. It failed to even chart, instantly branding M as a one-hit wonder in the world's biggest market. His next single, That's the Way the Money Goes, also failed to make an impact. For his second album, Scott committed the ultimate act of commercial defiance. He delivered the Official Secrets Act, an experimental, political, and challenging record that was anything but pop-friendly. The album was a commercial catastrophe. And just like that, Robin Scott had successfully committed career. He had been given the keys to the kingdom of pop, and he chose to burn the castle down. But the story doesn't end there. In fact, Robin Scott's commercial failure was the beginning of his true success. He took the substantial royalty checks from his one massive, world-conquering hit and vanished from the mainstream. He then did something extraordinary. He poured that money into his own independent label, Do It Records, and began a new chapter of his life, not as a pop star, but as a visionary. Scott became a pioneering force in the world music scene. Long before it became a fashionable genre, he was championing artists from Africa, using his platform and his funds to bring their music to a Western audience. His most famous collaboration was with the Bundu Boys, a revolutionary guitar band from Zimbabwe. He produced their music and helped them tour internationally, introducing their vibrant jit jive sound to the world. He wasn't chasing hits anymore, he was chasing authentic, important art. The man behind one of the most synthetic, disposable pop songs of all time had dedicated his life to promoting some of the most organic and culturally rich music on the planet. Years passed, and while Robin Scott was busy with his passion projects, his one-hit wonder refused to die. Pop music became a ghost in the machine of pop culture, a piece of shorthand for the quirky sound of the late 70s and early 80s. It appeared in classic films like Grosse Point Blank and was used in high-profile advertising campaigns for companies like Apple. But its most surprising legacy was its influence on one of the biggest bands in the world. U2. During the 90s, U2 became obsessed with the sound of pop music, while crafting their own electronic-influenced album, which they fittingly titled Pop. They even hired the original engineer of pop music to work on the album. As a tribute, during their massive globe-trotting Pop Mart tour, they would often blast pop music over the stadium speakers right before taking the stage each night. The song that Robin Scott had tried to escape had become an anthem for the very rock royalty he had never tried to be. So where is Robin Scott today? Now in his 70s, he remains an active artist, releasing music on his own terms. In 2019, he released a new album called Emotional DNA, a collection of ambient, experimental work that is a million miles away from the pop charts. In recent interviews, he speaks about his one great hit with a sense of detached amusement and philosophical peace. He acknowledges the absurdity of being defined by a 3-minute experiment he created decades ago, but he holds no resentment. He understands that the song's success, however accidental and burdensome at the time, was the very thing that gave him the financial freedom to spend the rest of his life pursuing the music he truly loved. He doesn't see himself as a one-hit wonder because in his mind, he never even tried to have a hit in the first place. The label of one-hit wonder implies failure, a failure to repeat success. But for Robin Scott, that was never the goal. In the end, the story of M is one of the most ironic tales in music history. A counterculture artist sets out to mock the pop music machine, and in doing so creates one of its most enduring and beloved artifacts. He became a global star against his will, rejected that fame, and used his fleeting moment in the spotlight to build a lasting legacy far from the public eye. He wasn't a failed pop star. He was an artist who played the game once, won on the highest possible level, and then chose to walk away and create his own game. It forces us to ask a fundamental question. What is the true definition of success? Is it a string of endless hits and a lifetime of fame? Or is it the freedom to create one perfect, bizarre moment and then spend a lifetime chasing your own version of the truth? It was a minimalist, deadpan track with a bizarre video that felt more like an art project than a pop song. Yet, this weird little experiment called pop music didn't just get on the radio, it conquered the entire planet, hitting #1 in America and becoming a global anthem.